Good morning. Sorry for the late start. This is Malcolm Nance. I am the host of the Black Man Spy podcast. We are coming to you on day not 34, 35 of the U.S.-Iran war. This is the update for this day. My co-host today is Wajeeh the Gay Lion, reporting from deep, cold Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is a Saudi geopolitical analyst and our expert on cultural affairs in the Middle East, along with myself, who spent plenty of time there. It's a cold, rainy day in New York, so we're going to go ahead and get started because for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you are watching a pre-recorded video. So please come to Substack and subscribe to malcolmnance.substack.com and Wajeeh Lion. It's not substack.com. And also press the button on YouTube and subscribe to YouTube. Watch this podcast. It's free for anyone who is watching it now. And if you become a paid subscriber on Substack, you will, in fact, be able to make comments and get some of our extra live programs like the special we had last night, which we will discuss here in the best. Look at this. Wajeeh, how are you getting more fans than I am? Wajeeh is the best. And you're tomorrow. Oh, by the way, tomorrow we need to set up the headgear challenge days because today I bought out my white pahul, but it's sort of moth-eaten, moth-bitten, and threadbare. But this is a pure white pahul. I
That's
didn't
very nice
decide
and
to wear it
excellent.
today. I'm breaking into the man cave, and we're gonna go and bring out all of my headgear from all over the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, and we're gonna have it out. So
You know,
that being
I
said,
still haven't showed you my diplomat tat yet.
okay, we'll get around to it. All right, you've got your black fezza on, but this
Mm-hmm.
morning, uh, we have some news about where Jacob Kaarsbo is. Our other co-host on the Black Man Spy podcast, Jacob is a former Danish intelligence Middle East specialist, served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He is a huge deal in Denmark. Whenever they want to know anything about Greenland or national security, they come to Jacob Kaarsbo first. He's one of the few former intelligence professionals who speak in Europe. But he is skiing right now on the French-Swiss Alps. I'm looking at a merchant ship that is on fire. So he is skiing right now on the French-Swiss Alps, on the French-Italian side. And he has essentially said, I'm watching everything that's going on. I'm watching the podcast, but I was going skiing. So he is living his best life and letting us take up the slack. This is exactly what you should be doing also. Do not doom scroll all day watching the U.S.-Iran war situation. It will just drive you crazy, especially the politics of it, right? Let's be honest. It's a little maddening out there. So that's our job. Our job is to do the analysis, to act as a continuous operations center, to collect the information that you need, and to inform you once a day in 1-ish hours about what's going on. And we go through everything, and we go through hundreds of feeds on the internet, and I watch Al Jazeera nonstop. And the reason I watch Al Jazeera, they have the best real-time coverage in the Middle East. They have access to places nobody else goes. I had a suicide bombing in Baghdad, and those guys were there waiting, right?
And they
They were
hire
tipped off.
reporters and they hire reporters inside the war zone. They don't have to
Yeah.
send their own reporters to the war zone. They always are very particular about who they hire, and they're very smart about how they do that. I got my media training from Al Jazeera. I never told you that. Uh,
Oh, well.
yeah, my photography media training was from Al Jazeera. Uh,
Oh,
so yeah,
well, great.
they're
I have been a
I
contributor. I've been a commentator on Al Jazeera over the years. Al Jazeera English when it was in Washington D.C. I was there all the time, and they pay contributors, right, for whatever you do. I often, if I don't feel aligned with it, I won't accept the contribution. So for those of you who are like, "Oh, you're a paid Al Jazeera clone," no, I was paid when I was at MSNBC for 7 years. I was a paid staffer of MSNBC and NBC News. That's different. That's called being a contributor, paid contributor. At Al Jazeera, I'm a guest, which means
Yeah.
you're not paid or you turn down your pay and you just comment because you want the Muslim world to hear what you have to say. But their reporting is excellent. I have to tell you, it really is good.
I do. Speaking of Al Jazeera, I do have the casualty board in front of me. If you are ever
Is it updated?
interested in,
Because I have some
it
updates too
is,
from the
it is,
Ministry of
it
Health. What
is.
do you have?
I have it updated to April 2nd.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, before we get into that, let's do our traditional because we are still spooling up to wait for people to come on board. Let's do some of our traditions. We are not having a hat challenge today because you just put that hat on because it was there. I bought a white pahul, as I said for everybody. This is another one that I got in Jalalabad in just after just at the beginning, at the end of 2001, beginning of 2002, when I was in Afghanistan doing something for somebody somewhere. So we will talk about that some other time. What is your coffee mug?
U.S. Embassy in Riyadh.
U.S. Embassy in Riyadh. You're sticking with that. Today, I have one which was a gift from a friend because I love. If you had to say, Malcolm, you can only have one kind of food for the rest of your life, one class of food, whether it's French, Italian, or whatever. Um, if I had to, I would choose Ethiopian food. I
Ooh.
love Ethiopian food. Super spicy, super filled. And someone gifted me an old Ethiopian Airlines first class coffee cup
Oh, that's
that
pretty
they
cool.
found at a gift shop. And it's so old, it's called Ethiopian Airways as opposed to Ethiopian Airlines in the modern world. And so this is where you would have your little, Ethiopian coffee. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm drinking. My extra strong double espressos from today, my Ethiopian coffee mug, although I still emergency sporting my Turkish. I always have my Turkish mugs here in case a Turkish hilwa drops out of somewhere and I get a nice sweet coffee. So, and like
You know
all
what's
good
so
Muslims,
special about Ethiopian coffee? They always roast it in front of you.
yeah, buddy. Yeah, I love me some. And also because we are talking about the Middle East, I always keep a little tray of dates
Ooh.
in front of me, like the favorite food of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And and also, this is what you break your fast with during Ramadan. At each the end of evening, you always start with how many dates?
Great. Great.
Three. Three dates. Dates
One,
are
three,
fruit.
or one, three, or like uh, not even numbers.
Right. So they are complex carbohydrate. They are heavily concentrated sugar. I'm going to tell you something about these dates. These dates have been sitting in this house unattended since last September. I bought these from Siwa, Egypt, Western Egypt, where I do a special operations history tour once a year. We have the history of the SAS, the Special Operations Executive, and the Long Range Desert Group. And we go out into the Western Desert of Egypt. And every year I buy dates, and they last forever. These aren't medjool dates from Saudi Arabia. Those are Siwa dates from
Yeah.
Egypt, and they last forever because you can put them into a camel bag, and they are high complex carbohydrate, high sugars, high carbs, and they are great energy food.
If
So
you're
that's
feeling
why we have
lonely at
coffee.
night, and you want a hot date, you just take a date and put it in the microwave.
That's where your hot dates come from. So this is my date setup down there, right? Which if you lived in the Middle East long enough, like I have, almost 40 years in and out of the Middle East, 20 years physically living in the Middle East. So, and 40 years of operating in and around the Middle East. Okay, that's enough banter. We've reached 1,200 followers. Therefore, we are going to start off with today's. Somebody says with peanut butter? Dates with peanut? No, 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 that's bad. Okay, let's start off. We've checked off the list of coffee. Please, Wajeeh, give us your casualties update, please, sir.
Here, let me switch it for you so you could see actually. Can you see that clearly?
Pretty close. You can move it up. I can tell you right now, the Iranian casualties have not been updated because I have some new casualty counts, but because that's still at 1,937. That was almost 5 or 6 days ago.
Yeah.
So go ahead, read them off.
Lebanon is 1,318 killed, 3,900 injured. Palestine 4 killed, Israel 24 killed, 6,239 injured. U.S. military is still not updated. Over here it says 13 killed. Iran claims they have killed an additional 37. We have not heard any confirmation from the U.S. government. They have denied it so far. 200 U.S. soldiers injured. That I think will go up here soon. Saudi Arabia, 2 killed, 22 injured. I think the 2 killed are all Western workers who are on kafala. Uh, 3 killed in Oman, 15 injured, 12 killed in UAE, 190 injured. Now, many of the injured are actual citizens. And those citizens get visits from the king and the royal palaces just to calm situation down and give them additional support. Qatar, you have 16 injured, and then Bahrain, you have 3 killed. Kuwait, 7 killed. Most of them are all from the uh, of kafala workers. And then you said you have an updated number on Iran. I'll
Yes,
let you do that.
I've got some new statistics from the International Committee of the Red Crescent that show as of this morning, 2,076 Iranians have been killed with 26,500 wounded. A international nonprofit has that number at 3,527, and that there are 1,212 military members killed and 1,606 civilians, with 709 unidentified as to their affiliation. So if you add that 709 to the civilian count, it comes out pretty close, just comes out over the Red Crescent's count. And it's quite possible Iran is not counting the military dead. But 1,212 military members dead in 30 days of American blitz bombing. I'm going to be honest with you, bro. That is not a lot. That is not a lot. We are clearly not blowing up formations of guys 100 at a time. We've dropped somewhere between the Defense Department a couple of days ago said 11,000 targets were
Hmm.
struck. The last one I had was 13,000. The White House is claiming 15,000 with only 3,000 left to go. That means you killed one man per 15 targets.
Good
Okay.
for you.
I gotta tell you, that is not a great kill ratio, we said this very early on, especially when the Iranian Navy was being devastated. When I had my missile battle in the Battle of Syria Island, we knew there were exactly 58 people on that missile ship. We knew it. We had ways of knowing it, right? The largest loss of life the Iranians have suffered thus far was the 107 men who were killed aboard the destroyer or the frigate Derna, who was coming back from India. They were near Sri Lanka. They weren't even in the area of operations of this war, right? So it was like shooting fish in a barrel. But no one else in the Iranian Navy went to work, apparently. All those ships that were in harbor, that were sunk in harbor, they were in harbor unmanned because the Iranians understood the value of a future navy made up of really advanced Chinese warships is the men, not the ship. They can sink those shit ass Chinese, Iranian built ships. They can go get now using oil. They can buy really advanced frigates that can actually defend themselves in harbor in Bandar Abbas. The ships they had didn't. Same thing with those IRGC boats. Those were for show. If they were serious about them, they would have gotten underway the day of the war and spread out across the Arabian Gulf and did battle. That was not the plan. The plan was we're coming at you with small boats and mines and anti-ship missiles, and we'll just take punch after punch after punch after punch after punch. And when you think that you're exhausted from punching, we will then come out and make your rock your day. That's the nature of asymmetric warfare. Watch.
And again, they have a mosaic military structure. They have been looking at the U.S.
That's the term.
government.
Tell them that's the technical term for their strategy, the mosaic strategy. That's the name.
Yep. So if you cut the head of the snake, instead of one snake, you have 10. And if you cut one of those 10 snakes, you have 20. And every military structure you have in there does not need to depend on the top leadership. They are
Yep,
already had their fatwa. They already have their purpose. They already know who's the enemy. All they need to know, all they need to have is the weapon and aim it at who they know the enemy is.
yep.
There is
They
no question
divided
about what they need to do. Yeah.
over a decade ago, they divided the country up into 31 independent IRGC military districts. And each of these little pieces, these tiles, create a mosaic. And the mosaic is the defense of the nation. But all of those command posts have sub command posts that operate independently. You could destroy one district headquarters, and there's still 30 others plus your subordinate command posts who go, hey, the boss is dead. You guys go kick ass according to this, these code words or these dates and commands. They knew this war was coming. They knew the war was coming. All right, that being said, let's move on. Oil price of oil. I have not checked the price of oil. It is exploding right
I
now.
got you.
Go ahead, hit us with the oil. What is it right now? And I'll tell you what it was 30 minutes after Trump spoke yesterday.
WTI crude oil, $112.70. Brent
Are you
crude
kidding
oil,
me?
yeah, a 12% increase since yesterday. You have
What's Brent? We can't read
Brent
it well,
is
so just read the numbers.
the Brent is $109.
Well,
Morabang.
stop. Brent North Sea crude, which is always valued higher, is at 109, but WTI, West Texas Intermediary, is what? 13, 112?
Yep.
113, 113. Oh, something's going on, people. Something is going on. It's telling me, I think WTI crude, which is contracted for the future, that's a sign that that this war is going to go on. It's higher
Yep.
than Brent North Sea crude. Yikes. What about Murban?
Morban is $113, the same as the WTI. You have natural
Whoa.
gas for the US is 2.8, which is a little high. No, actually, it's actually a little lower. Actually,
Yeah.
gasoline is going to be around 3.2. I saw that in California it was up to $9 a gallon.
Yeah, that's Beverly Hills. They always charge
Yeah,
the
yeah,
highest in the nation.
that makes sense.
And I've been to that
WTI.
gas station by complete accident in Beverly Hills, the one that's the highest one in the nation. I do not buy
Refining
gas.
oil is a little down by 3%. It's going
Mm,
for $105 a barrel.
mm.
Indian oil is going for $120 a barrel.
It's because they
Um,
can't get it.
yeah. And then you got actually
Okay.
Canadian gasoline is a little cheap. I think that's all we need to know for now, right?
Yep, that's all we need. All right, great. Wow. Hey, something is going on with West Texas Intermediate. That's U.S. oil. Last night, after Donald Trump gave his speech, oil jumped, right? WTI jumped from $98 that we had yesterday up to 103. It just boomed the minute he finished, which tells you the markets had no confidence in the United States stopping this war, and they are now planning into this war the fact that it isn't going to end, right? And that it's only going to get worse. And now the futures, West Texas Intermediate is higher than Brent North Sea crude. That ain't funny, people. For those of you who are in the United States and Canada, your gas prices are going to go up dramatically because, as we all know, the oil companies are not just profit taking right now. These prices are being built in for weeks, if not months from now.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Okay, let's go to significant activities. For those of you who were not on last night's paid subscriber only watch party, where we talked about the specific details of what to watch for before a U.S. military operation on Karg Island, Strait of Hormuz, and going into Iran, which we thought the probability of those was waning based on what Trump had been saying. Well, they're all still on the table this morning. Donald Trump gave his surprisingly short 20-minute speech. I don't think Trump has ever given a speech that short. Clearly, somebody wrote it for him. It was lame as hell. That was my analysis. It was lame. And everyone thought Trump was going to chicken out. Everyone thought Trump was going to taco last night. And what he did was, instead of tacoing, he wrapped his taco, Trump always chickens out, in another taco. He
Yeah.
chickened out from chickening out, but he didn't say he was going to do anything else. And all he did was repeat his threat that he made on Monday, where he said, if Iran doesn't comply and open the Strait of Hormuz immediately, we are going to destroy all of their energy and infrastructure. He once again threatened war crimes, which of course would hurt the average Iranian and would make them rally around the regime. And the way he described it, he was talking about using atomic bombs, right? That it was going to do it in such a way they could never rebuild them, they could never use the land again. And it's like, what are you going to salt it? Or the only other option is radioactivity. I don't know who's writing this stuff for him, but the markets collapsed the instant he finished. The markets dropped on the stock market, and oil prices boomed almost immediately. Watch. You watched it with me. What do you think?
I thought it was horrible. I have not, like, he did not bring us a single update. I had a check mark on everything he said, and I wrote an article about it. I think the global market is definitely have reacted to the Trump administration. I have said it that the global hegemony that the United States used to have on the global geopolitics. Uh, is gone. No one has any respect to the United States. No one has any interest in continuing its alliance, whether it's military or continuing their contracts with the United States if it's economic. The United States has
Mm-hmm.
been drawn too thin to protect its own allies. Switzerland is stopping to pay all of the payment with the military contracts with the United States because the United States is not able to fulfill the promised contracts that they have promised Switzerland with
Yep.
with the TAD missile. And so Switzerland's like, you're not giving me the missiles we agreed on. I ain't paying you. So the United States all of a sudden is like, okay, then you're not going to get any of the protections we're giving you. So like, it's crazy. We're about to lose Switzerland.
Yeah. Yes, Switzerland. And they're waiting for the F-35. And they had already paid for Patriot missiles. Those missiles, they're saying they're not coming. We used those. We used 800 Patriot missiles thus far, right? Ukraine hasn't used a fraction of that in 5 years. And it's just absolutely amazing. Okay, let's go to some other significant activities. Trump's speech, we have it, was a disaster. Now there are some things that we need to talk about. Here, I'm going to turn the camera around.
Mm,
This gentleman
president.
is, all right, this gentleman is Kamal Karazi. He was the former foreign minister of Iran. He was always considered a moderate and a diplomat. And he was supposedly one of the people who was brokering this peace deal between the United States and Pakistan. He was trying to get the United States and Pakistan and Iran to meet together in order to come about a ceasefire. Out of nowhere, yesterday, a ballistic missile struck his house. An aircraft launched missile struck his house and attempted to kill him. It killed his wife, and he is in critical condition. This is the person who Trump said was the moderates that they could deal with, out of nowhere, are being assassinated one by one after they are identified as being moderates who could end this war. Now, the United States is not taking credit for this strike. So another nation state is trying to kill all of the Iranian negotiators as soon as they are found. This gentleman not only has been critically injured, so he cannot negotiate, we killed his wife, or his wife was killed. Let me rephrase that, right? As a widower, let me tell you how horribly painful it is when you kill someone's wife and you lose your wife. To give you an idea of the joke that we have in the widower's world, if you watch every major revenge movie out there, like, I don't know, John Wick 1, 2, 3, and 4, The Equalizer, The Punisher, even, silly films like, The Patriot, they are all widowers looking for revenge. And if you think that this guy, should he survive this, like Mujtaba al-Khamenei, even though it is God's will that they lost their wife and children, by killing them and killing their spouses whom they love, you have just created a death enemy.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, if this guy survives, he could be the deciding vote to John Wick the western side of the Persian Gulf.
And,
So
and, and,
clearly,
and
go ahead, please.
Israel is doing this on purpose. They are scared and they realize that the Trump administration could tackle on them any moment. And their only way to ensure that they continue to have Trump administration to support this war is to continue to sabotage any peace negotiation that happens between the United States and Iran. So when you are worried and you have been waiting for years to find the perfect president that you can manipulate to your own liking, right? Like the amazing negotiator, uh, Jesus Trump, that has been presented to us by God for the peace negotiation. Um, is there, is Netanyahu is going to take 100% advantage of that because he is the only president that will give him what he wants. He's the only president that will go along and listen to Netanyahu because Netanyahu will give him, yeah, Tomorrow they will give you the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize. I swear to you, I'll give you a prize right now. Tomorrow, my friend, you have another
My
prize.
friend.
And you will, yeah,
Mm,
you'll be called the best president in American history. And he's like, he listens to that.
yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Well, apparently Israel is if this is clearly not being done in coordination. This gentleman who they assassinated apparently was the person that was supposed to meet with JD Vance. So somebody does not want the United States negotiating with moderates in Iran. They want the war to continue. And their strategy, I'll be quite honest with you, big supporter of Israel. I'll say this every time, not a supporter of the Netanyahu government. Not at all. They are not working with the United States. They are now working against the interest. Netanyahu's government's goal is to collapse Iran into a failed state, not to have Iran negotiate. And they're not going to collapse it. So long as you keep getting dates, kebabs, and Turkish coffee and Moroccan mint tea, you are not going to collapse that country. Trade is going on everywhere else. People are getting food, milk, water, dates, and goats. You will not collapse it. If you collapse it, it descends into civil war, and 93 million people start killing each other. That, I suspect, is the goal of Netanyahu. Yes, Wajeeh.
Yeah, you think the Strait of Hormuz has blocked all of the world economy, but it has not blocked the Iranian economy. Iran still
No.
has access to China. Iran still has access to Pakistan. Iran still has access to Russia. They are getting everything they need. They are choosing who crosses the Hormuz Strait. So if you think about it, we're the ones that are struggling, and they're the one prospering,
Yeah.
even though they're like
Well,
getting decimated with all these bombs. But they're still getting access to all the resources they need.
yep. And you have to understand, I mean, there is not one country surrounding Iran. Let me show you this. Uh, there's not one country surrounding Iran. Okay. There are many countries surrounding Iran. I'm going to show you the big map. And so long, I mean, it's not the Strait of Hormuz is nothing. The Strait of Hormuz is just a toll booth to get money, right? But when it comes to trade, there's trade coming from Pakistan, loads of it. Pakistan's desperate for oil right now. They'll sell Iran anything across the Baluch Desert. Afghanistan, foodstuffs coming across Afghanistan, even though the Taliban is running it, trucks don't stop. Trucks come from Tajikistan, right? Uh, uh, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, all the way across the desert from China into Iran and often cross up to Turkey. Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, Iraq,
Hmm.
everybody is still selling stuff to Iran. The daily things for 93 million people to survive is being sold. The Russians are bringing materials, televisions, drone parts across the Caspian Sea from Russia and trading that stuff for barrels of oil. Do not believe that Iran can be cut off just because this is closed. They are cutting us off. That can be closed all day as far as they're concerned. They're going to get their money. They're still going to get their goats. They're still going to get their kebabs. There are a massive, massive population center. They are the largest population center in West Asia. Right here. Bigger than the entire Muslim population of India, which is 91 million. This is 93 million in one consolidated country. Oof. I mean, bigger than every country up here combined in population. So they're getting their food. You cannot collapse them. And for Israel to think that this is what you're doing, you can collapse this government by bombs. Next thing you know, what are they going to do? Start bombing. I suspect that they're going to bomb energy and they're going to start bombing markets, which is going to be ridiculous. Yeah. But look, let's be honest, okay? Netanyahu's got, I'm afraid to say, crazy shit is happening so badly. I am now agreeing with guys like Joe Kent. Never agreed with Joe Kent politically before, but he quit when he said the United States is being manipulated right now and that Israel is not playing ball with us. Right? Netanyahu has a goal for Iran, and now it's very clear. None of us can deny it. He's out to collapse Iran as a nation, knowing that millions of refugees would go into every direction. And this is why he did it in Syria, right? Wanting that to collapse. And all those, knowing it would destabilize Europe, it would destabilize every market in West, Central, and South Asia. They need an election, but that guy will win.
I don't know how he keeps winning. I mean, there's a good block in Israel that is not.
Hard right coalition. That hard right coalition is crazier than MAGA. They will not budge. They will go follow him and Trump to the ends of the earth now. And the liberals there, the moderate coalitions, they cannot get it together. But what he's doing is popular. Let's move on. Okay. And other significant activities. Actually, I will get to this under diplomatic. Let's go on to the Iranian operations. Iran carried out a Passover offensive against Israel. As you guys know, it's the Passover weekend. Is today Thursday or Friday? I can't keep track.
It is Thursday.
It's Thursday. Oh, okay. Well, that's cute.
Yeah.
Okay. This Iran has now carried out last night the largest ballistic missile attack on Israel since this war started. Was carried out against Israel yesterday. Al Jazeera reports that there were the largest attack since the war started. 10 ballistic missiles fired at Israel at the same time, cluster warheads, most of them. And as we talked about, that is a harassment warhead. Here is a video that I will show you. I hope you can see it. For those of you who say that we have too much light in here, this is. I don't know how much this. Whoa! That's a unitary warhead coming down in downtown Tel Aviv. Also, cluster warheads. Oh, Diane K, you're naughty. Anyway. So multiple warheads struck the country, including cluster warheads designed to kill people. Only 14 people were injured in the bombardment, but it was a significant bombardment. So things are not great for them. In other news, we talked about this yesterday. I'm going to reiterate it because apparently Iran is now carrying out its punishment campaign against data centers in the Middle East. They not only support the U.S. armed forces, they support the armed forces of the Arab states. This is the Amazon data center in Bahrain. It was struck. 3 Amazon data centers in the Gulf have been hit. This is what they look like. They're full of computers inside there and servers, and they are the AI-generated data centers. Here is a graphic about the data centers that are being struck. 2 in the United Arab Emirates, 1 in Bahrain. These things, the way that they attack them, they either attack the building directly, they attack the power that goes to those buildings. As you know, they are giant sponges of power. So when you affect the power, it shuts down data centers. Most of the hits have been done by Shahed drones because they're easy to intercept with, right? Easy to strike with. And you can fire 20 of those and one of them will get through, and that's enough. Many of these data centers support the United States military. Yes, yes. Listen, I called you Shahed. Yes.
These
You have
data,
like
why,
the
why are these data centers very important? They are a corner of the diversification for the Gulf nations economy. For many years, they have been trying to find ways to diversify their oil only income. And because they are full of oil and natural gas resources, they are well equipped economically. They have an economic advantage, what we call and making data center because they have cheap electricity. And when you have cheap electricity using petroleum, it is ideal for you to have these data center. And they have marketed themselves heavily to be the next AI and data center for the global economy. And they
right.
made many deals with the Trump administration based on these protection agreement and that they have all these resources. If you take them out, you have taken out all their dependency on the future economy. That's why it's important.
That's correct. And they were really diversifying hard. I mean, back when I lived in the UAE, it was about diversification of money coming into the country through real estate, tourism, turning it into a global transport hub, right? Dubai, it was the largest hub in the world at one point for transit coming through. When I was in Abu Dhabi, I used to fly on the first Etihad Airlines flights out of Abu Dhabi. 400 seats, and at one point we only had like 16 passengers on a nonstop from Abu Dhabi to New York City. It was my commuter flight. I would take that flight 3 times a month. And then they started code sharing with Air India. And Air India would fly shorter flights from Mumbai to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And then that aircraft would have 400 Indians flying or people flying from South Asia transfer in Abu Dhabi and fly to New York City nonstop. And 400 at a time, 2, 3 times a day, right? So there's a lot of diversification in travel there. So the UAE became this massive hub for going out into the world. And don't forget, in the UAE airports, duty free is a
Hmm.
huge place where they make a bunch of money, right? Selling whiskey and all these things there. So they would become this global travel hub, and that's going away. This war is almost single-handedly killing it. It took 15 years for that. I moved there in 2005. I moved out in 2015, and it had just really started to explode. That could be quite literally gone now. So they're getting badly damaged. So their future was future tech, right?
Yes.
AI chip manufacturing, AI data centers, and becoming a hub in the world for that. If by the end of this war, I suspect a lot of that will be gone, and you will see them reevaluate possibly 5, 10 years off. They
Since the
won't be
Gulf
trying to do that next year.
Since the Gulf nations' inceptions, their message to us as citizens in the Gulf nations is Amin wa Aman, the very famous two-word saying, Amin wa Aman, safety and security. This is what we promise to provide you.
I'm no.
We used we used to have people who cut the highways and kidnap people and steal their money. Their focus was we provide you as citizens safety and security. We make sure that we do not give you taxes. Saudi Arabia just recently started paying taxes. And now, after 100 years of that mindset strategy and integrated that into their foreign investment come to us. We have safety and
Mhm.
security. You wear a Rolex in New York, you get stolen. You wear a Rolex in the UK, London, it'll get stolen. Come to Dubai, Habibi. Nothing gets stolen from you. Now,
Nothing. Yeah, yeah.
that mindset of safety and security is gone. That took
Mhm.
trillions of dollars of investment to make.
And it's like I was saying, and they hedged themselves by diversifying into every area of the world. And their real money, I remember in 2008 when the economic collapse happened, and I've told this story here before. I met with the guy who referred to himself as Sheikh Khalifa, the head of Abu Dhabi, as his wallet. I am the Sheikh's wallet. And I was like, what? Who am I talking to? This guy had folders stacked a foot high on his desk and six different mobile phones. Harvard trained PhD economist. And this guy was unlike any Emirati I had ever seen. He was all business. He was real business. And he was there to talk to us about demining in Iraq. And he said, this country in a few days, we were going to shut off every investment until January 2013. And back then, I didn't know it because I don't know anything about markets. I could have made an enormous amount of money. If I had $10,000, I could have made tens of millions of dollars on that little bit of inside information. But they did. They shut money off in the United Arab Emirates like a light switch. And one of the few people who was retained, they fired thousands upon thousands of Western expat workers there. And one of the few people that was retained was my wife, because she was an executive building this, prestige project for the Sheikh himself. And they fired everybody. Everybody had 30 days to leave the country, right? Her project had 1,100 British, Australian, and American contractors. They had 30 days to get out. They were abandoning their cars at the airport. Austin Martins, just leave them there parking and leave and abandon ship, abandon all their debt. So this being said, they are going to do this again. I suspect the United Arab Emirates is going to hit that light switch and turn it off for 5 or 10 years, and they are going to diversify into into other fields.
They already have done that. They kicked out all the Iranians. There have been
Yeah, I saw that. Unless
there,
you have a golden passport.
unless you have a golden passport. Here's the thing. A lot of people do not understand. A lot of people in the UAE, I could say 50%, could trace their ancestry to southern Iran. A lot of
Yeah,
there and a lot of people from Iran and when the UAE just started, when they were fleeing Iran and they went to the UAE, they received an Emirati citizenship that's very hard to come by right now. Uh,
yeah.
People
I'm
have been getting interrogated. They have been getting uh, taken off the street just because of their identity and the UAE. You, the leadership of the UAE have a famous saying: "Our our skin is tough and our meat is bitter. Try us."
mhm. Well, I have to tell you, there is I'm going to give you a little culture. I know we're getting into this stuff, but way back when I was there, you were talking about the makeup of the Emirati culture there, and this is important, people, in terms of what's happening there, because the Emirati culture is the most militant right now. The Emirati government is
Mhm.
the most militant of all these governments. But you were talking about that some of the people there are based on Iran, right? Are Iranian based, and have are not Iranian based, but come from Iranian culture, because the UAE has many different. It's how many emirates is it? Is it seven emirates? And their
Seven.
character, they're based on multiple cultures. And there used to be in Abu Dhabi, and not in Abu Dhabi, in the United Arab Emirates. I don't know if they still have it, but there was a cartoon TV show of what they called their UAE superheroes, the first characters that were recognized internationally. Um, do you remember this show? Do you remember this
Yes.
TV show? It was called
Oh my god.
Farij. Farid, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I'm gonna put a link out there of some videos from Farid. Farid is one of the finest cultural shows ever made in the Middle East. I watch a lot of Egyptian comedies. I've watched a lot of Lebanese soap operas, Turkish soap operas. I have never seen anything capture culture like this cartoon characters, these four 3D animated characters of four traditional Emirati women, right? And it also was an eye opener. Let me show you something. It was an eye opener to the culture of women in the United Arab Emirates, um, and that no one ever saw or heard of these women in Farij. And the cartoon, even though it was made by men, the voices are men, all of the things, these women were superheroes in the United Arab Emirates for 10 years. And the show was about how these old women sitting around would talk and live and interact. But they came from four different branches of culture. This woman here, who was the high tech woman there, I can't remember her name, Farouz maybe. She was of Iranian descent, right?
Mhm.
This woman here who is smart but a regular old housewife, she was from Southern Emirati descent. The chubby woman who is really sort of skittish, she's from Omani descent. And the dark woman, right, who is here is the big mouth, loud black woman. Okay, she's from Saudi Yemeni descent. It represented all of the tribes that made up the United Arab Emirates. And I swear to God, I'm going to put this up on Substack, and it's hilarious
It is
and
very good.
accurate. You could learn so much from that TV show, Farid. So why are we talking about Farid? Oh, by the way, my wife loved them. We would go to the mall, and they would have the big giant guys or women guys mainly in Farid costumes, right? And my wife would go running over to get hugs from the big Farid women.
Oh my
This is a
god.
woman. This is a American, French, Canadian woman in her 50s at that time, going, Hamas! She would run over and give Hamas, who's the big black woman, a big hugs.
You
It
know,
was just such a powerhouse in the United Arab Emirates. In fact, here's a picture of the Farid characters. uh this is back in this is still in 2020. They were very popular, the Farid characters. But there's a picture here of the Farid, one of the Farid cartoon characters that goes around the country and hangs out in the malls, and you can have your picture taken with them.
for us, Farid is
Incredible.
almost like
I
South.
think Farid was one of the superpowers. What's that?
Farid for us is almost like South Park.
Yeah, it was, but it was good South Park. It wasn't critical. Farij, by the way, is like, it means neighborhood, right? Our tiny little Korea. And these little people,
Team.
these women all lived. By the way, I have identified the exact neighborhood that they live in Dubai, and it's just across the highway from Mall of the Emirates. No, Dubai Mall, from Dubai Mall, right? There's a small, tiny place of undeveloped old school houses there of old Emiratis. And when I found it, I was like, oh my God, I found Farij. And, because they show the locations of principal buildings in Dubai. I know we've gone on. Let's go on back onto the war. But Farid was a cultural education I think all of you need to understand that. So when you said Iran and the Emirates have been very closely tied, 1/4 of those Emirates have some history in Iran because they would trade back and forth across the Strait of Hormuz for centuries. That being said, Iran did bombard Israel with the largest missile barrage that they've had in the war. United Arab Emirates yesterday was hit with 19 ballistic missiles, 26 drones. They intercepted them all. Thus far, the United Arab Emirates has been hit with 457 ballistic missiles, 19 cruise missiles, 2,038 drones. Who else? Next is Bahrain. Bahrain, thus far in the war, has received 188 ballistic missiles, 429 drones. And the U.S. air base at Ali El Selam was hit, and a U.S. base in Haksaka, Syria, where we operated with the Kurds, was hit by drones, Shahed drones, fired by Iraqi Popular Mobilization Front, PMF, or as we call them, the Hashid Shabi, right? Iranian-backed militias in Iraq. The United States is still bombarding Iran. Khalas. They're showing pictures, videos of that, of them hitting missiles, one of which we discovered was a dummy missile. You could clearly see that the missiles were fake. They were like broken on the rails, and we still bombed them, right? If it looks like a target, we could have been bombing as many as 10% of these things may have been dummies, right? So, but we like to drop bombs, so we kill the dummy ones as quickly as we kill the real ones. We have the
And they
bombs to
like to
do it,
waste our money. And they
and they like
love
to waste
wasting
our
money.
money. I keep hearing that the United States are sending these A-10 strike aircraft to the Gulf, that they're already there, that they're out boat hunting. Still, we are on day 35 of this war, and we have not heard of not one high-speed small boat that has been attacked by gunships or A-10 Warthawks. Go figure. Or any small boat being attacked by any U.S. warship other than the ones that were tied up at the pier in the harbor. What do you
In
say,
the
Clay?
beginning of the third Gulf War, the United States came out and said, "We destroyed 200 boats we decimated the Iranian Navy. They have 30,000 speedboats, and you only destroyed 200. What kind of, what kind of victory are you talking about? I still
Yeah.
see how they still have a lot of more. What what are you talking about? We still don't have access to the Strait of Hormuz. How have you destroyed their navy? They still can control who goes by the Strait of Hormuz. How have you destroyed their navy?
Yeah,
Doesn't make
just
sense.
one at a time. I mean, granted, you can go out and destroy these things, but I suspect that they are also including every fishing boat, every small high speed boat, all of them, you know? But small boats are small boats. You know, they're small, and all they require is a motor, and you with your rifle, rocket propelled grenade launcher, and machine gun, and you are now a weapon system out there. Oh yeah. I mean, I can show
And
you all sorts
the
of
other
classes of
day,
boats. I'm sure we can.
you showed us several pictures last week. One of them was one boat carrying five or four um, sea mines, and they just
Yep.
drop it while they're going one by one, and they're gone.
Well, Pete Hegseth made it clear that they specifically targeted those. Okay, you targeted those, you know, but that's not what makes up their fleet. That might have been 10, 15 of those little, mine laying boats. Now, if you got 1,000 boats with one mine, that's trouble, right? That's all you need. It doesn't even have to be all of these, big boats. Fishing boats and high speed boats, can be the exact same thing in a harbor. Actually, I just want to show you. This is Iranians pulling out. I have a photo of the Iranians actually finding a body that washed up on shore. May have been an Iranian Navy sailor, but it's the fishing boats behind them that you go, oh, those are just as good. If the Ayatollah, eh, you know, uh, recovers and he puts out a big statement that every person will now get in a goddamn boat and go fight, you're going to have a lot of boats out there. A lot of boats. All right, let's move on from that. By the way, I have an update on the U.S. mine hunters. I know that there's been a lot of talk about, the U.S. mine warfare ships are supposed to be out there that a few weeks ago they were in Malaysia. Well, they moved out of Malaysia and they moved to Singapore. And as of 48 hours ago, 2 out of 3 of them are still in Singapore. I don't know what's wrong with those ships. I don't know if they're broken, but they are not involved in this war. And right now, as far as I can tell, there are only 3 ships with any mine-sweeping capability. That's their sister ship, USS Canberra, who we discover as of a week ago was in the Seychelles Islands, Port Victoria, which is 2 days steaming from the Strait of Hormuz. But we are not allowing these ships to be anywhere near the war. They are not great warships. They are made of aluminum. They can burn. They change them over to be modular. But Central Command has deemed that they are not fit to be anywhere near the war. The other 2 ships that can sweep mines, the 2 minesweepers that the United Arab Emirates has down in Abu Dhabi. That's it. That's all of the capability that we have out there. So, by the way, this is the A-10. This is what people are looking forward to. These are forward air controllers, what we call JTAC, Joint Terminal Air Controllers. They control by voice A-10 Warthog strike aircraft that can carry an enormous amount of war fighting capacity. But these are the kind of men and women who would be on the ground, or on an amphibious ship going to attack those islands while U.S. aircraft do it. That's interesting. I'm watching Al Jazeera here. They're talking on Al Jazeera about a U.S. night missions in Iran. What's it going to take for the U.S.? Crazy. So anyway,
That
this
that
war is continuing, but it ain't the greatest. Yeah, go ahead, Watch.
doesn't that plane have one of the strongest machine guns that is in the center of
Yes.
the plane?
Yeah, it
Yep.
has a massive machine gun, and we've been watching it carry out activities in in Iraq. That's where they've been using it most recently, is in Iraq proper. All right, let's go on to diplomatic. Donald Trump still dissed NATO yesterday and dissed our allies. Oh, by the way, before I get off Iran real quick. Oh, I'll get that. It's the last item. The United States just decided that they would insult our allies. And Donald Trump, in his speech yesterday, specifically, not yesterday's speech, in a statement yesterday at another event, specifically insulted Emmanuel Macron. And here's what he said about him: that his wife is ugly, right? And beats him up. That's what Trump said. He said his wife, quote, treats him extremely badly, and that Macron is still recovering from a right to the jaw,
What kind of
right?
presidency is this?
It ain't, dude, it ain't. It's a 5-year-old. So let's see what Macron has to say about that. By the way, this is not going to get France to help us out any better, anymore.
À vous directement avec des allusions privées sur votre groupe. Qu'est-ce que vous répondez? Est-ce que c'est des attaques que vous considérez comme
So I'll translate the French for you. It's right here. Trump talks too much. His remarks are neither elegant nor up to any standard. And he said Trump has bad manners. The analysis was, in French, this is a declaration of war. Okay? Trump just can't keep his mouth shut, And it's just amazing what he's up to. Okay, in other news, the United States Embassy in Baghdad has placed a second warning for all Americans to leave the country. They said that the Hashid Shabi, the Iraqi Popular Front militias, are going to be attacking American citizens, almost as if
They
they have
kidnapped.
called
They
for.
kidnapped. They have kidnapped the U.S. citizen. They have. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Watch
Sorry.
it. Baby, I'm all over it.
Uh,
I got a picture rating for it. If I start talking about it, that means I knows it.
Might be. He just got me good though.
This
I'm
is
sorry. I'm gonna shut up.
independent. This woman is independent freelance journalist Shelley Kittleson. She was kidnapped on the streets in Baghdad yesterday. Two men came up to her, grabbed her, shoved her in the back of a car. She was struggling the whole way. The Iraqis are trying to find her right now. They did arrest one of the kidnappers. This car, which was the car that kidnapped her, was chased by Iraqi security forces. But like all good kidnappers, they had already transferred her to another car. The reason this car is smashed up is because Iraqi security forces chased the kidnapper and they had a running high-speed chase and the car went off the road and smashed. She was not inside, which means that they transferred her. This is a video of the kidnapping. I don't think you can see this very well, but I will point this out to you. This is her standing on a street corner. Two men come up to her and start hustling her into the back seat of the car. That I'm going to say that I would like to say I recognize that neighborhood in Baghdad, but it's probably near the Rashid Hotel where they all stay. Oof. Do not go to
No,
Iraq, and if you're an American, leave Iraq.
not just Iraq. No. I am honest with every American. No American is safe in the Middle East.
Yep.
Period.
Okay. And our last note, this war is excessively unpopular. This is a discussion that happened on CNN yesterday. Whoop, let me shift back.
Someone is asking, is she American? Yes, she is a U.S. citizen.
Yes, she's American citizen.
On credit card to help you find
Hold on. I will.
real offers with clear terms without hurting your credit score.
So,
And that does matter.
Nope,
Single democracy.
Yeah, Donald Trump had a very good chance. Every single weapon system that was actually a threat to us is still intact. You just gloated that we took out thousands of their missiles. Okay, so I keep hearing this line. We've taken out their missiles. Don't have a navy. We've taken again. Okay, their Navy and Air Force was 55 years old. What is taking? Then what's that harassing people? What does taking out a 55-year-old Navy mean? Instantly harassing ships at the Gulf.
What stuff they're still harassing?
They don't have any ships left.
you don't have to have ships.
The main thing that we care about, which is the straight up part of it, is just the global oil supply. They are still, as Trump said, Trump made this point himself. It doesn't take a lot to terrorize ships in that strait. And they are currently doing it, right?
Look at these numbers. Approve of the war is Republicans. 72% approve of the war, but still 30% of them disapprove, right? Independents, only 26% approve, 74 disapprove. Democrats, they say 6%. I don't know who those people are. They're not Democrats, but 94% disapprove. Overall, only
Those are
30% of Americans approve of this war. It's insane. All right, well, this has been a whirlwind day. Let's answer your questions, and then let's talk about the future, because it is apparent to everybody this war is going to continue. And all of those options seizing Card Island, Trump is changing his mind minute to minute.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to warn you right now, Wajeeh, this will be my last word on it before we go to questions. It can get a lot worse, people. A lot worse. Wajeeh, what do you think?
I say it will get a lot worse, not it can get a lot worse. And the United States is struggling so much. They're literally offering $3 million of reward for any information about the situation in the Middle East that could lead to protecting U.S. embassies. Well, that's what we used to do with terrorists. Now we're just doing that because we have put ourselves in a situation where we have made ourselves vulnerable against everyone. Like everyone has hatred toward us. If it's the Iranians, it's because we have attacked them. If it's the rest of
Yeah.
the global economy, it's because we have disrupted it. If it's
Yes.
our allies, they're disappointed. We have this. We have any in the worst case scenario have kept repeating itself. That's all I
Yeah.
have to say.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to questions. Uh, Linda Wade says, greetings from North Germany. I read today that Timo Trudapella of the AFD says that Germany should get rid of all U.S. military. Oh, don't worry, baby. Donald Trump is working on that right now. In fact, the United States had already transitioned from Germany being our number one force locator country. We are out of Germany except in two places. Ramstein Air Base in Western Germany, a small presence at Rhein-Main Frankfurt Airport, and Grafenwehr Training Center in Germany. That's pretty much where all of American forces are. When I was in the military, we were everywhere. I think we had 500,000 men in Germany. They have mainly shifted to bases in Poland. So the AFD can say that, which is surprising, but the AFD works for Moscow, right? They are mainly pro-Moscow, anti-Ukrainian party that believes in extremist right-wing philosophies. So who cares what they think? David Fitman says, can you rate Trump's speech last night? On a scale of 1 to 10, it was a -3. It was lame. I mean, it was beyond lame. Taco wrapped in a taco. He tacoed from his taco. That's bad, right? Lara Ballard says, Shala in Maryland is the best Ethiopian food. I will have to go check that out because I personally think Dukem and Adams Morgan, Washington, D.C. is the best food. And I've been going there for years, so we'll have to
DC
see
has
about that.
some
We're going to have
good.
Ethiopian off, right? I got to tell you, there's a good Ethiopian restaurant near Globetrotter in Frankfurt, Germany. So good Ethiopian can exist anywhere you can find it, baby. For Wajeeh, this is from Shane Granger. I am not an East Middle East, North Africa expert, but you talked about the kafala system in the Middle East. I think he's talking about the Hawala system.
Kafala. I was talking about
Oh,
Kafala
kafala.
just earlier. Kafala.
Okay, I understand a little bit about it due to the Soccer World Cup, but can you give everyone a little bit of history from the ground? Tfaddal.
Okay, so the last open slavery market in the Arabian Peninsula was in 74, 73. Um, and so it wasn't that long ago. After that, King Faisal and the rest of the GCC leadership moved to criminalize slavery, but then they have substituted it with a sponsorship visa system where the
Yep,
sponsor, like for example, I'm a household and I need to hire for example, a maid. I would sponsor a maid from Southeast Asia, like for
right.
example, Indonesia, and they would come over as a sponsor. I'm legally allowed to hold your documents from passport to visa,
Yes,
and I can hold your payment and I can force you to work 24/7 and you don't
yep,
get any break. And there are no labor laws that protect any of these members of the kafala system. It gets
yep,
even worse when it goes under construction, where you have construction workers working hours and hours below 100-degree heat Fahrenheit, and many of them die, and their family do not get any good compensation for it. So there's a very deep history. I can write you guys an article about the
yeah.
kafala system, but yeah,
I can,
that's in short.
I can I can tell you a personal story because I was involved in it, right? The sponsorship program, sponsorship employment, which is what this is. It's technically legal slavery. I needed a maid in United Arab Emirates. I had a wife. I had two dogs. I had kids that were going to university over there, and I had to spend 4 hours in the car as essentially chauffeur for my wife, bringing her out to these remote projects, and then me going back and, going to the Raha Beach Hotel and working out at the gym, and then, having to go back and get her 4 hours of travel per day, right? Did I mention that it was like 35 degrees Celsius heat, which is 105-degree heat? In fact, my little Peugeot 305 literally melted one day. The entire interior collapsed because it was so hot on the roof. The glue that it was originally manufactured with collapsed. It gets very hot there. And we needed a maid. Went to a company that brings in, and they were like, go through this book, and it's pictures of maids. And finally, we were like, well, we don't want to bring someone from there. Is there someone here? And they said, yes. And they said, we have a maid who was sponsored by an Emirati family. She's going back to the Philippines. She's been fired. Can she work for you for 2 weeks? And we said, yes, of course. Now, we're Americans, so we want to treat people fair and nice. We had a maid's room in our apartment. We had 5-bedroom apartment downtown.
Very common.
And we went to Carrefour. We bought a bed. We bought dressers. We bought a TV, a radio. We had an old laptop. We gave her to use Wi-Fi. We bought all this before we ever met her. And, when she came, her name was Michelle. She's still in the UAE as a teacher now. But she was badly abused by that family. So when we introduced her to the house, she goes, well, sir, where am I going to sleep? And she thought she was getting a sleeping pad on the floor. That's what she thought. And we showed her the bedroom, right? The maid's room, which was literally a room for a maid. She goes, well, does your daughter sleep in here and I sleep on the floor? We were like, no, that's your bed. We just bought that up here from Carrefour, right? And she couldn't believe it. She goes, so I get to sleep on the bed? We were like, yes, you sleep on the bed. She goes, but whose things are these? And I said, it's your TV, your radio, your laptop, your clothes go here. You do laundry days for you. And then we sat her down and explained the contract. We paid her exactly what the Filipino government demanded we pay, whereas Emiratis would pay 10% of that and then withhold it. We handed her passport and she goes, she would call me sir, does sir want me to keep the passport? And we were like, no, why the hell I want your passport? It's your passport. You know? But they would keep it to lock them into employment. She slept on the floor under a baby crib on the floor for almost 6 months. She could not eat food at the same time they did. We were just so exhausted through the day. My wife says, can you cook? She goes, no, I can't cook. She goes, you have 3 kids in the Philippines. She goes, yeah, but I cook Filipino food. Well, I was in the Navy. We all eat Filipino food. Right? We were like, can you make lumpia? She goes, yeah. We go, can you make pancit? She goes, yeah. She started cooking for us. She was such an incredible cook. My wife started sending her to cooking schools, French, Italian. She was incredible. We were so lucky to have her. And she may have been the only person paid as a chef, cleaning assistant, and babysitter in the UAE getting paid full salary. Because as she kept saying, we are Americans. We don't enslave you. We contract you. And
Unfortunately,
she was incredible. She's part of our family still, even after my wife passed.
unfortunately, even for Americans, Malcolm, that's very generous. I'm tearing up because my whole family used modern slavery.
Yep.
I've had it since my childhood. I had my own chauffeur drivers. I had my own maids. They did
Of course.
everything from babysitting, cleaning, cooking, uh, you know, uh, and
Watch,
even raising kids. And
watch it. Let me tell you something. One of the guys who follows me and watches this show every morning is a friend of mine in Abu Dhabi. He's there, and he started writing to me recently. But Michelle, the first day after the first week after Michelle got hired by us and the visa got transferred to us, the woman contacted her, right? The lady worked at the Ministry of the Interior, and her husband was the sponsor. And when she found out that an American hired her at full salary, this is what she did. She contacted her and said, "You bring me your first 2 months' salary."
What the? That I
She
would
said,
not be
"You bring
surprised.
me your first 2 months' salary, or I will cancel your visa." So my wife, flew into a rage, took the pay extra, right? 2 months' salary for the Emirati was $200. She didn't know that we were paying her the full $450 that the Filipino government mandated. And my wife went there with one of the handlers from the Sheikh's office from Aldar, right? To let her know that she worked for the Sheikhs and the Sheikha, right? As a female executive who had the right to sponsor her family, which is never done over there. And that woman was shocked, and she goes, "Here's your $200. Never contact Michelle again. She works for Americans now." And if it wasn't for the power of the sheikh, that woman would have been shaking her down for half of her salary every month. That's the way it works over there. Khalas.
And
It's a
even Americans that go there take advantage of that. Like I
Yeah.
was.
Oh,
That's what
yeah,
I was
yeah,
going
yeah.
to try to say.
I'm
It,
sorry to tell you, a lot. One of the things we used to do was we used to go to a lot of hotels. We traveled a lot, and we would have hundreds of bottles of soap and materials left over. And Michelle would say, "Sir, can I have some of these for the Filipino embassy?" And we didn't know that they had an entire basketball court with 100 or 200 women waiting to go back to the Philippines who had been abused, sexually assaulted, physically abused over there, and were going back to the PI, and they had no toiletries. And my wife made this a jihad. She would buy all of these little toiletries and have Michelle package them up and give it to these poor women who were trying to go back to the PI. But you're right, that system there is just a form of, it's a form of indentured servitude, right? So it
I
does
still
exist over
I
there.
still
So
have
listen, we
I
got to
still
move
have
on.
not I still have not mentioned two things. The homicide
Yeah,
that
yeah.
happens by these families against these slave workers, because they're the
And the other way
homicide happens.
around.
And then you have the government committing these homicide against them as well by execution, and without even legal representation or a day at court. So yes, I will definitely write you guys a complicated
Good.
article about the situation.
Okay. Hey, for those of you who are sending me condolences on being a widow, you don't have to anymore. Was a widow. But 6 years. It's been a while. Let's move on. Is there a fatwa already ordered on Trump for 2029 when he's out? What are they waiting for? What do you think? I think that if they could get a shot, they'd take a shot, but Iranians don't have to do anything. The world economy is doing it for them.
Yeah. I actually missed the question. I was trying to read some of the questions
It
that
says, is
were.
there a fatwa on Trump? There's been a fatwa on Trump for some time.
There has been some fatwa on Trump. We're waiting on the jihad fatwa, which is the nuclear bomb that we don't want to hear. Like Iran doesn't need to have a nuclear bomb to infiltrate inside the United States and inside Europe and hit deep into the infrastructure. They don't have to have Iranians even in the West to do that. All they need is a fatwa and a whole bunch of people who are just waiting for a permission to make an attack like that. So,
Okay.
you know,
Pam asks, do you think Europe will make their own deal with Iran to get a multi-pass? I don't think so. I think the moment this war ends, the literal second the United States says we're finished with attacks, we won't do any more attacks until, and the world believes that the U.S. withdraws carriers and all of that, the Strait of Hormuz will open the next morning. It'll be like it never happened. It'll be February 27th, right? All the ships will start passing back and forth, and nobody has to have a multi-pass. And Iran will be making big ducats. Not 2 million. They'll be making $250 million per ship that go to Karg Island. No need for multi-pass when you can get $250 million just by letting ships go through. Okay, Dan Diamondberg says he's our representative from Israel. Dan, let us know sometimes if you want me to bring you on camera. In the Israeli democracy protest movement, we've been calling for Netanyahu an existential threat to Israel. Do you agree? And as his madness in Iran an example of that? This is an election year, and he is scared to death of losing. This war is a lot about that. He's been fighting since October 7th. And my problem is, I think that any other Israeli president would have wiped Hamas out in the first year. And then going on to bring the fight to Hamas and Hezbollah, it's almost like he's looking for perpetual war. And I think he likes the idea of Iran collapsing into civil war, which is good for nobody. Imagine rogue factions having access to ballistic missiles.
Instead of one ISIS, we could have two ISIS. Anytime you have a vacuum of power, you allow all the factions that have been divided for years to pick up arms and start attacking each other and attack their neighbors.
Yeah. Okay. Lara Ballard says, do the Saudis not also want us to destroy Iran? Yeah, of course they do. But guess who gets hurt the most? Not Israel. Not the United States. It'll be the Gulf states. You can want what you want, but the hard reality is what it is.
So, there is a lot of talk that in MBS, and for a long time, like King Abdullah, for example, told Obama, sever the head of the snake, meaning, kill the Iranian government. And this new administration, the first administration with the Trump, they also MBS was trying to get the United States to eliminate the leadership of Iran. But this here's what hasn't happened. They were not involved in the decision making. They were not giving any heads up, and they were not involved in military planning. So when you take all of that out, you have blindsided all your allies. So instead of them getting prepared and stocking up with missiles and making sure their soldiers are all up and ready, you have made sure that all that readiness is gone. So they're not economically ready. They don't have enough oil to spread around the world. They could have done a lot more to protect their economy, and none of that happened. So there's a lot more to it. Meanwhile, you have betrayed your two strongest allies in the GCC, Oman and Qatar, where they were negotiating on your behalf. They made the peace treaty between you and Taliban in Afghanistan. They made the peace treaty between you and the people in Iraq. And you threw all of that in the trash. The one country that stepped up all the time to the plate is no longer going to do any negotiations for the United States, and that is Qatar.
Yeah. Okay, some of the questions, I'm going to merge them together from Aaron. Will African countries and South American countries wake up and kick U.S. interests out? No, because that's money. But China is winning those battles. China is eating our lunch in the other parts of the world. Let me move on. Nancy Byman says, since we have a religious holiday this weekend, do you expect an attack during the Paschal Easter season? It's possible, but don't forget, Trump likes to pretend like he's a Christian, which he is not. I'm a better Christian than he is I'm a better Christian Muslim than he is in any stretch of the imagination. Most Muslims are better Christians because they believe in Jesus Christ, right? As the most powerful of prophets. Deacon Wallace says, how long can Navy ships float around before ships need to be restocked with provisions? For some time, they're restocked all the time. We have supply ships coming out to them. And finally, Carol says, have you heard of any conventional army being prepared for a couple of months' arrival? Yes, we've been reporting on that, both on the Iranian side, they've been preparing, but the American side, we're trying to find out what Trump is up to. Okay, we've gone really far over 1 hour and 40 minutes today. Um, if anything occurs, tune in tomorrow. Do not go out and watch this. For those of you watching on YouTube, follow Wajeeh and me at malcolmnance.substack.com on Substack. Free subscription. We're trying to get to 100,000 followers on Substack, so please share what you've seen here. And do not watch television, radio, and doom scroll this. It will drive you crazy. I'm sure that within hours, now that the stock market is in free fall, Trump will come out and say something stupid like, I'm ready to end the war, because he's manipulating the market. Wajeeh, say goodbyes.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
All right, see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.